nations greater, are sharing to empower. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Yeah, listen, together we shape young men and women. With the pillars, with the future, here we are. Let's join together with ability to change communities, with love, with peace, to respond to our need, to call for unity. Africa, hear me cry, never leave me alone. As I see light in a brighter future, let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands for youth and women.
I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Yeah, vijana wa Afrika wote waungana. Vijana kutoka mashariki, magharibi, kaskazini na kusini, hata na kati. Twaja pamoja ili tufanye nini?
So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Hello, Kunjani. Search Bakai. Piana. Bravo. Amahoro. Mambo.
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika, Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika,
Since 2017, YouLead Summit has been the climax event and convening platform for different stakeholders to debate, assess, and deliberate on the most pressing issues affecting young people. The YouLead Summit 2022 was held from the 12th to the 16th December 2022 at the EAC headquarters in Arusha, Tanzania, and MS Training Center for Development Cooperation under the theme Digital Access and Future of Work. Day 1 hosted the Under 40 Political Leaders Forum, which examined the policy and institutional environment and the state of youth participation in political governance, explored factors that help or hold back youth from becoming leaders, and advanced new thinking on what it will take for Africa's youth to become the leadership for the Africa we want. The Policymakers and Development Partners Roundtable examined the role of stakeholders in creating an enabling environment for youth participation. It examined the relevance of the Africa-Europe Partnership to African youth and how to best make it work for the African youth in areas of digital access, economic opportunities, and decent work for youth, especially under the AFCFTA. The afternoon session of Day 1 also featured the launch of the Tanzania Youth Democracy Dialogue Project and the plenary experience-based young leaders debate on If You Sat Where They, the Leaders Sit. His Excellency Donald J. Wright highlighted that youth in Africa want democracy and that democracy provides opportunity to build, strengthen, learn, share ideas, collaborate, and get mobilized to achieve the Tanzania we want. Honorable Masai Pamela Simon spoke on the relevance of such an initiative and called upon the integration of climate change as a key to achieve digital access and the future of work in Tanzania. Honorable Nusrat Hanje called on youth MPs to connect with the youth by meeting them, engaging them, and ensuring young people are meaningfully engaged. The plenary session provided the opportunity for delegates to outline their priorities if they were the leaders in certain elected positions. The day ended with an inspirational fireside chat between delegates and Dr. Susan Nasozi Mwanga, the first female head of Department of Political Science at Makerere University and Executive Director of the Julius Nyerere Leadership Center, and His Excellency Fatoumata Tambajang, former Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia.
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika, Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika.
On day 2, the Under 40 Business Leaders Forum explored making the AFCFTA promises to African youth a reality, opening markets and opportunities for women, youth, and SMEs. It also served as the last mile for ULEAD's ongoing process of collaboration with the AFCFTA Secretariat, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, on consultation and collecting of youth and women views and contributions for AFCFTA Protocol on Youth and Women in Trade. The forum started with opening remarks by distinguished guests and representatives of MS Training Center for Development Corporation, the East African Community, the East African Business Council, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the International Trade Center. It was followed by the Policymakers and Development Partners Roundtable, which hosted a fruitful dialogue and exchange on Africa-Europe partnership and entry points for young people. The discussion, which hosted representatives from both Africa and Europe, including the African Peer Review Mechanism and the Young European Federalists, tackled several aspects including partnership for green transition and energy, partnership for digital transformation, sustainable development and jobs, peace and governance, and migration and mobility. The afternoon session of the Under 40 Business Leaders Forum provided an opportunity for delegates and distinguished guests to discuss ULEAD's work on youth in business, trade and enterprise, and the entry points and opportunities for women and youth in trade, entrepreneurs in the AFCFTA Women and Youth in Trade Protocol. This was followed by the EAC Youth Enterprise Accelerator Awards, EAC YEA, for cross-border trade innovation. The session featured presentations by 4 applicants of the EAC YEA 2022 who were given the opportunity to present their business idea proposals and invite startup investment from the partners attending the summit.
The problem is there's a lack of equitable financial inclusion for young people in Africa. And also, the root cause is financial illiteracy. Many of us know how to make money. The truth is, I don't have to teach you how to make your money. The issue is, how do you manage it? And what's our solution? We'd like to empower young people to make informed financial decisions through financial literacy programs. So there's a prepaid debit card we've created to grant users access to financial services and also to enable them practice good personal financial habits as they learn.
My name is Kevin Yonghuru. As said, I'm the founder and the CEO of Spota Company. And Spota Company is an agribusiness company processing the sweet potatoes. 64% of population in Burundi affected by malnutrition. And you guess what? Most of factors which are there, we recognize one factor, and that is the one we wanted to work on. That factor is related to the increase in price of sugar. As you know, that sugar is mostly used in preparing porridge and bakery products, as you know. But in Burundi, you realize that along 7 months out of 12 months along the year, we have shortage of industrial sugar. Along the year, we harvest around 746 tons of sweet potato. That's why on that opportunity, we came up with different products so that we help the population of Burundi to be able to access to the highly nutritious porridge that doesn't require the sugar. Even if there is no sugar, they can still use this porridge.
So we have Peter Garang from South Sudan, who is the founder and CEO of Sud Health.
Thank you. My name is Peter Garang, the founder and team lead for Suit Elistech, a company that is currently under prototype. I just want us to take 1 second to think about losing a sister, a mother, a wife, because of something that you and I can prevent. That is what exactly happens in South Sudan, where 1,150 lives are lost during delivery.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the inaugural session of the EAC Youth Fellowship, and also the first training session. And we are going to be having a very short virtual launch today. It's good to see all of you that we have been talking to here. It is good to see names of people that we have been talking to and trying to reach and trying to convince to take one option or the other. And it is extremely exciting to know that the fellowship is taking shape, and that the circle that we're going to be engaging with for the remainder of this year is coming together. We are truly, truly excited to have you. My name is Stella Agara. I'm joining you from MSTCDC in Arusha, Tanzania, and I'm going to be taking you through this session today. Many of you have already interacted with me on email, so you may be just connecting a face to the writings. A good number of you have received quite a lot of bullying from me, but I know from this point on, now that you're in the house, we are going to be friends, and the bullying is going to come to an end. This process has been long awaited. We have been working on getting this fellowship rolling at least for the last 2 years. And from the time we launched it at one of them, as you have seen in the videos, we have been working very hard to try and get it together. And finally, we are at that place where we can start the process of the summit. I am quickly going to take you through the program of the day so that we all know what we are going to be doing for the session today, after which we shall embark on the business of the day. Kemi, I don't have permission to share my screen. Could you please just grant me permission to share? Thank you very much. Just a second. So I believe we can all see my screen. So we'll start with a short opening ceremony, and then we are going to embark on the virtual launch of the fellowship after the speeches that we're going to be having at the beginning. We will then move to an information session that is supposed to precede the training session. This session is going to involve an expert presentation on the topic that you can see on the screen: leadership in the EAC, the teacher's pet, the class manners, and the absentee. And then we'll have a feedback session. This feedback session shall be taken care of by myself and my team in the background, where we'll have a survey and we'll have a social media campaign. A lot of you have already been engaging in announcements that you have been selected for this fellowship. So at that point, we shall see what you have all been saying online. And then we'll embark on Leadership 101 session, which shall be done for 90 minutes, after which we shall close for today. and take a break before we get into the business that we are supposed to be doing for the remainder of the fellowship. For now, please get into the chat, introduce yourself, your name, the country you come from, and anything interesting that you'd want us to know about you, because we're not going to have a session to introduce ourselves due to the limited time we have. But once again, it is extremely exciting to have you here, and we can't wait to see what is going to come out of this conversation. I am supported by a very powerful team behind the scene who shall be helping you with everything that you need. So if you have any questions, if you're struggling technical issues, you have already been in touch with them on the WhatsApp group. So I'm certain that you can also reach out to them and make inquiries from them. I expect that we will have a very orderly meeting. You will only speak when you're requested to do so. So please mute your microphone and wait for your turn to speak. Without much ado, I'd like to welcome the Executive Director of MSTCDC, Ms. McKenna Mobobia, who's going to be making welcoming remarks and also unveiling the partners who made this entire initiative possible. Ms. McKenna?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Stella. I must confess I'm one of the people that you have bullied, so thank you for being honest with us this morning. And I must say that I'm very excited and thanking everybody for making the time. So let me just take a few minutes just to say that this is a really exciting moment for me. As McKenna and as Stella said, I'm McKenna Mobobia, the director at MSTCDC, and one of the people that has been so excited and longed for this fellowship. And personally, I've been looking and discussing for a fellowship that is homegrown. And here we are with the East Africa Fellowship Program that is unique and so important, as you will hear from other speakers this morning. I just want to say that the East Africa Youth Fellowship is a prestigious initiative that has been designed very carefully, thoughtfully, and of course with the partners aware of other mini fellowship programs. And this particular program intends to engage and empower young people in regional integration and leadership within the East Africa. We expect the leadership of the fellows that are going to engage in this program to have impact not only in East Africa, but beyond. So we have very high expectation, and we are looking at a leadership that is value-based, a leadership that is looking for transformation. And so I want to say that my expectation is just beyond East Africa. I also want to recognize that this fellowship aims also to harness the full potential of youth or young people, both female and male, and we expect to promote their active and meaningful participation in shaping the future of the region and Africa as a continent. By this program offering mentorship, capacity building initiatives, and networking opportunities, the fellowship program will seek to nurture the next generation of young leaders committed to value-based leadership within the region, cooperation, and development. So I keep on emphasizing value-based leadership because we must be unique in terms of what we are putting in the region for us. Please allow me to recognize the following organizations that have collaborated in the design of this fellowship, and it is my greatest pleasure to unveil them. MSTCDC, through the ULEAD, as we call it, or the Africa Youth Leadership Program, the East Africa Community Secretariat, the Jakayo Mrisho Kikwete Foundation, whose founder also is the patron of the ULEAD Africa, the Julius Nyerere Leadership Center, under my I call my Daktari Professor Susie my dancing crime mate. We realized that we have a passion for dancing, and that's a story for another day. And definitely, I also want to recognize the Emerging Leaders Foundation. I want to say that you may have already have read this, but just the re-emphasizing that the fellowship is focused on two thematic areas: youth in politics and youth in business. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that these two themes are very critical in bringing a transformed leadership that will recognize the importance of youth engagement, not as a tokenistic action, but as a strategic approach that is embedded in strong frameworks and resourced by governments. So the long-awaited fellowship is here, and we are very proud as MST-CDC and the Secretariat of the Fellowship to host you today. I must also recognize some very important partners without whom this fellowship would never have been possible. TCDC has the opportunity of having a very strategic partnership with Dunedin Fellowship Center. Most of you will be hearing us talk about DFC. We have a partnership that actually we call Together for Impact. And this is one way that we are going to put the impact on board through such a fellowship and support. Thank you, DFC. And I think I saw Cecilia saying thank you so much for this partnership. The Swiss government, and thank you so much, Ambassador, who has such great passion that has been with us and has worked with us, and the EU delegation who have sponsored the fellowship, not only financially, but their human resource, their thoughts that will actually shape the delivery of the fellowship. I want to say as a MST-CDC, we are committed as the Secretariat. We have the services for the fellowship. We have also been engaged with developing the curricula in collaboration with the partners. And as you can tell, with Ms. Stella and the team leading in a very rigorous fundraising efforts. And it is this that we believe that as we move forward in this fellowship, we shall be having more partners joining us. We continue to support this great initiative for youth empowerment and commit to continue to push for its growth and expansion. And I continue to call on strategic partners who believe in this homegrown initiative fellowship to join us so that we can have more young people join. And I here do invite actually more partners to join in this Youth Grown Fellowship program so that we can reach more numbers of young people. And for those of you who come from East Africa, I think if I say in some country, which I'll not mention, maybe because of my own bias, I know in one of the countries that we talk of the tyranny of numbers, and this could work for us if we have more young people go through the fellowship, because then that is how we shall be witnessing the transformational leadership, the integration, the development, and how the young people can become the change of Africa today. You are all very welcome in this place as you learn and learn again, relax. And as the former and great president of Kenya, President Kibaki, used to tell us, enjoy your stay, and karibuni sana, and looking forward to learn and to hear more and to be part of this great journey. So thank you very much, Stella and the team. I really want to appreciate, because I know a lot of candles, and I don't know if there's paraffin. Paraffin in Kenya is very expensive, that you have burnt your candles and you've gone over and above, and just saying thank you to the partners. Thank you to each and every one of you that really has been part of this, and for us being here today. Over to you, Stella, and thank you, and looking forward. God bless you all.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, McKenna, and thank you very much for that very encouraging speech. I know now the fellows feel welcomed, and indeed they know the partners that have collaborated in making this happen. I'm also very aware that there are very of us who have come from the corner where we have tyranny of numbers. And the mission of the EAC Youth Fellowship is to make sure that we have a tyranny of numbers of young people who are equipped with knowledge on leadership, number one, equipped with knowledge and understanding of the problems that we have in the region, but most importantly, equipped with networks and social capital that they can be able to use to make change. For that kind of thing to happen, you need resources, you need means to be able to get that happening. And we have a number of partners that we have identified to support us, as McKenna has mentioned. We will be unveiling many more partners along the way. And McKenna mentioned a number of them, but today we have a representative of one of our main partners and the first believers in the EAC Fellowship, who have invested tremendously in making the fellowship happen. Their representative in the room is Cecile Holt-Rood, the Capacity Development Advisor from Danida Fellowship Center. They are very keen on learning, knowledge development, and indeed they have come out greatly to support this process. So I'm going to invite Cecile to speak to us about transforming knowledge into action. Cecile?
Thank you, Stella. Thank you, McKenna, for this nice opening of the fellowship. I'm so happy that we are starting today. I'm happy to see you all, and I'm looking forward to see you all in person next week. My name is Cecilia. I'm a Capacity Development Advisor from Danida Fellowship Center. And at Danida Fellowship Center, we make trainings, we make learning happen. And our goal is to bring that new knowledge, that new learning into action. And this is also what's going to happen in this fellowship, because you have been selected out of more than 700 applications to join this fellowship and learn so many new things about how to be a leader, how to lead, how to transform your societies, both within political and business themes. But we are not only here to learn, we are also here to bring that learning into action. And I want us to all reflect about how can I use the learning that I'm getting today or through the fellowship? How am I going to bring that into my life and into the context where I'm living? How am I going to make this relevant for the community I'm in? How am I going to bring this to more people? Because as you see, more than 700 people applied. Now, how am I going to be a representative of all the young people who also need to be the leaders in their communities? How can I bring that knowledge to them? How can I create kind of waves that will make the change happen, make that knowledge get out in your communities? And I also want to encourage you to question throughout the different trainings and ask the instructors to make it applicable and relevant for your context. You can bring up your situation where you are in, if it's in South Sudan or in Kenya, if it's in a small community or in a more governance situation. Bring that forward and say, how am I supposed to use this learning in my context, and make sure that you apply it and make it relevant for you. So with all this, I just want to say that learning is nothing unless we use it. So please take this with you and make sure to use it so we can bring all the new exciting knowledge into action. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the partners. Thank you for all you young people for taking this opportunity. I have so many expectations and hopes of you. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. Thank you. Over to you, Stella.
Thank you very much, Cecile. And indeed, learning is nothing if we're not going to use the knowledge in the community. When you arrive at MSDCDC Arusha next week, you're all going to get a chance to meet Cecile. So get ready to also share with her how you intend to put this knowledge into action. Some of you may be seated in this room and wondering, where did this entire idea come from? Why are we talking about bringing young people together to an EAC Youth Fellowship? Why an EAC Youth Fellowship, especially when as McKenna has mentioned, there are many other leadership training programs. Why this particular one? I'm going to invite one of our partners mentioned from Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete Foundation. I'm going to invite the CEO, Ms. Vanessa Anyoti, who's going to be speaking to us about why the EAC Youth Fellowship, where are we coming from, and why is this important? Vanessa, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Stella, and so good to hear from McKenna, yourself, and Cecile, and wholeheartedly agree. And I just would like to share again how excited we are to finally see this day happen. It's been a lot of years and time in planning, and really excited to meet all your fellows. I know Cecile had mentioned that tirelessly they worked to go through 700 applications. So congratulations for making it to this stage. And we hope that you will, as you transition through the fellowship, be as excited as we are today for it as well. So the genesis of why the East Africa Community Fellowship. So the fellowship is actually a result of 6 years of engaging young people in the EAC region through the ULEAD program. And you know, the ULEAD program, which is the joint initiative between the EAC as well as the MS Training Center for Development and Cooperation. And the ULEAD Summit in 2019, which was held in November from 11th to the 13th, under the theme Youth at Crossroads, Migration, Participation and Access to Opportunities, came up with some key outcomes from the summit. And one of them was an establishment of the fellowship. And the fellowship that you all are going through has 2 tracks. So you'll be able to engage with each other as well and learn from youth in different spheres and spaces. So the first one is the Youth in Politics track, and the second one is the Youth in Business track. And specifically, we're looking at a way in which we could continue to engage, build the leadership capacity of young people beyond just summits and conferences, because we know those are short-term and short-lived. So provide a platform for that continuous learning and engagement. We're also looking at ways in which we can continue to leverage and consolidate ULEAD's convening power and the ability to network, connect with ULEAD alumni, with the various networks like the East Africa Youth Ambassadors Network, as well as connect to mentors and mentorship opportunities. So as Ms. McKenna said in the beginning, the fellowship is designed by East African youth for East African youth. And we're looking at specific challenges within East Africa that we'd like to address, but also opportunities within East Africa that we can leverage among each other as young people. So as much as this is a fellowship that's been coordinated by all these partners that have been mentioned and more to come along the way, this is also really your fellowship as well. So throughout the fellowship, we really look towards hearing back from you, hearing your insight to see how we can continue to better the fellowship and also reach more young people. So thank you very much for suggesting this idea. And for holding us accountable, for making sure that we do launch and implement the East Africa Fellowship. And we're looking to continued support to see how best we can enhance it and meet the current needs of young East Africans within the community. So thank you very much again. And we are really excited. And hopefully by the end of today, you'll be even more excited than we are.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, and thank you so much for your commitment towards pulling together this fellowship. Thank you for every moment you spent reminding us to come together and just do what needed to be done to make this a reality. Indeed, we also appreciate the partnership with the Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete Foundation, and we continue to celebrate the good work that we are doing together. I'm now going to invite a speaker who is going to be sharing, based on her experience working on matters of politics, leadership, governance, and also her experience dealing with the matters of decision making around the region. She's going to be sharing on the youth equation, and she'll be looking at the significance of good leadership and governance to achieving the Africa we want. To speak on this, we have Dr. Nansozi the director Leadership Center, a center that of name results the image and nature of one of the leaders that we celebrate in this region. And I don't want to take much time or even preempt what she's about to say. Let me just let her speak so that you can see how inspiring the team that we work with is. Dr. Nansozi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Have I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dr.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. First of all, good morning, everybody. I'm actually almost speechless because I'm super excited that this day has finally arrived and that we are, sorry, I am super excited because this day has finally arrived and we're here and we're talking about something not in terms of parables and what might happen, but what is actually going to take place. As I've been introduced, my name's Nansozi Mwanga. I'm the Executive Director for the Julius Nyerere Leadership Center at Makerere University. It is a presidential initiative, but one that has been here for a number of years. Basically devoted to three main areas: policy leading research, youth leadership training, and finally the hosting of conferences and dialogues which are cross-generational. And one might ask why cross-generational, but part of the reason maybe you're also here as young leaders and young leaders who are going to be part of this program is to be able to learn not only from what you're going to get in the classroom, but also what you're going to get in terms of learning from those who come before you and who are still actively involved in politics. Now, oftentimes one asks why leadership and why we should consider it and why should we talk, have this conversation now and with young people like yourselves. I think it goes without saying, and I'm sure you as well as I know the challenges that we are facing as a continent as a whole, as a region specifically within East Africa, whereby it is estimated that 80% of our 146 million people are actually below the age of 35. That is huge. And when you get away from the demographics in terms of the sheer number of young people, the importance of governance and leadership also come into the frame. Why? Africa is not short of resources. East Africa itself is also not short of resources. But oftentimes the key issue that is brought to the fore is basically about leadership, that leadership will determine what happens with the resources that you have, whether it is young people like yourself, whether it is oil, whether it is agriculture, and so on and so forth. So as you start this journey, and it is a journey, it is not just the 1 year and you'll be with the program, but long after you finish the program, is first of all to understand yourselves why did you apply? Yes, you got selected. And I congratulate all of you for having been selected. But the issue is, why did you think it was important? Irrespective of which strand you decide to take, whether it is politics, whether it is business, why did you think it was important? And I think that this should be your go-to place. Every time you go through a module or and so on, ask yourself that question. And when you ask yourself that question, it will provide you with a basis for which not only to learn more, but also which will provide you with a basis to be able to act upon it. A number of things which I think and I feel are really, really important for you to keep in mind as you go forward on this journey. And with us right beside you is, first of all, what do you expect to achieve? Not in terms of what you're going to achieve in terms of your learning in terms of modules and so on. What do you expect to achieve at the end of this? What contribution can you bring to the table by, insisting on and being engaged with different ideals and philosophies of leadership? We all know that there are all sorts of different types of leadership out there. And by and large, one would, say there's, of course, the traditional leadership, charismatic leadership, the legal, rational kind of leadership. We are not interested in this, you deciding right now what kind of leader you're going to be. But what is important is being able to set goals to be achieved, being able to find ways within what you learn to be able to organize the people who you work with, the others who have had this opportunity, and of course, putting into some kind of framework what your goals should be or will be as a guiding principle overall. And finally, maybe being able to manage ways in which, or arranging ways in which you'll be able to motivate other people who have not had the opportunity to take this course, other people who have not had the opportunity to be instructed by a variety of interesting and charismatic leaders, but ones who have a passion for where they are coming from. Now, the other area that I think is important as you start this journey is that it's not enough to take on board that you are doing leadership training. You need to be able also for yourself, as I said, ask yourself, why are you here? But also ask yourself the question as to what kind of leadership and what kind of strategies and what kind of behavioral patterns do you want to espouse as an individual, as a person who has come out of these training and mentorship program. I think that without going into what the different styles are, I think that one, of course, that I espouse to and which I push very hard for others to also reflect on is this whole idea of servant leadership. Yes, people say, well, it's not really in vogue anymore. That's not really what we want to do. But then when you look at the crises that we are facing within the region, whether it is to do with food, whether it is to do with politics, whether it's to do with security, different areas, we need to go back to understand what this idea of servant leadership is all about. The fact that you as an individual can put the needs of people under you, under your leadership first, and help them to grow and help them to perform as highly as possible, I think is not only a noble cause, but it's also a philosophy and an ideal that probably should be, part and parcel of your journey as you start. I feel like I'm getting into that lecture mode where you continue and don't want to stop. But I can't get away from my roots as being a teacher. But the essence here is that the East African vision, or the vision that you have as an individual, and the competencies that you will gain, are what is needed in order to deal with not only the complexities that we experience and see within our environments, political environments, but also ones that we see in the journey that you as young people are embarking on. Oftentimes people talk about, oh, young people, you know, the leaders of tomorrow. And this is something that I actually have a real, I'm really against, because it is not tomorrow. It is actually today. So the journey you're embarking on now is not only because you are hoping to use it in the future, you are actually embarking on it because you are going to use it even as you study, even as you are able to go through it and decide which particular area you want to focus on, whether it's business or politics. You have to understand as young people that once you put things off to tomorrow, somehow other things intervene and you might not be able to get back to them. So I urge you very strongly, first of all, to understand our problems, not as Africans, only as Africans, but also understand our problems and challenges within the region. Thirdly, I urge you very strongly to also reflect on some of the earlier ideas about how to overcome those problems and how to overcome some of those challenges. By that, I mean that let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, those old people, what do they know? Reflect on some of the lessons that one might learn from that. Reflect on those lessons in relationship to what you have decided you want to do and why you want to do it. That way, I think it will be a meeting of interests between yourselves and us in order to be able to craft the kind of Africa that we need, led by you. Thank you.
Thank you very so much for the responsibility that our fellows have towards this fellowship. It is definitely a space to meet, interact, and socialize, but there's a huge responsibility that is in the shoulders of everyone who has been selected and is part of this process. And I think the reminder to reflect on the important things was only necessary for this particular session, and also for the fellows to understand that the assignment ahead is not small. But if it was not scary enough, then it would not be worth pursuing. Thank you so much for that, and we truly appreciate you and the contribution you have made, especially towards the development of the governance component of this fellowship. We can't thank you enough. And I'm sure that the team that is going to be going through the political cohort will truly appreciate the knowledge that you have managed to gather together for the sake of their learning, and of course for the sake of their capacity development, to be able to reach out and solve the problems that you highlighted in your speech. We have not yet been joined by the Director of Political Affairs at the EAC. I am going to suggest that we skip his session, and as soon as he's able to join, we're going to allow him to speak at that moment. But I think, not bad, I should be saying, and I think this is a good moment to say that we are saving the announcement on the launch of the fellowship for when he joins. If he doesn't, then we'll figure out how to get that to happen. But we are still hopeful that he's going to join. I'm therefore going to skip into the information session that is supposed to happen right before our training starts. This has really worked in our favor also. I'm going to invite a speaker that some of you may know, especially those of you coming from Uganda, because he does numerous newspaper articles. He's a face in the governance conversations in the region, and who also happens to be the head of the Leadership and Governance Academy at MS Training Center for Development Cooperation. Again, those of you coming here next week will be able to join. I will be able to meet him and have a conversation with him. But before you do, he's going to be speaking to us today about leadership in the East Africa community. And the matter is the teacher's pet, the class manners, and the absentee. I hope your attention is piqued. Andrew Karamaji, the floor is yours.
So much, Stella, for inviting me and for that very generous introduction. I come to this conversation with a serious degree of cynicism and fatigue, and I'll explain why. We are all excited about the launch of yet another leadership building initiative, but this is not the first time we've indulged or invested in such a process. And if you look at the region in which we are launching this activity, you will notice a couple of things about the leadership or representation, whether appointed or elective, that we have. So please think about, for those who are the fellows attending, please think about your country. We have, at least in my own country, Uganda, we had up to 1 million people in total contesting, not those who won, contesting to become a leader of some sort, whether at the village level or at the district or national, and so on. Kenya has 349 seats available for representation. In Tanzania, it's 393, 106 in Rwanda. And then there are the league champions. Uganda has 557 seats available for members of parliament. South Sudan has 550, and DRC with 500 seats available for members of parliament. The question is, why is it that even after successive attempts at building leadership, seminars, workshops, fellowships, and all these investments, we still have leaders that cannot, either willingly or are simply incompetent and unable to materially impact the conditions of the people that they purport to lead or represent. So the first point I'd like to make is that I hope that, and would like to encourage all of us, not to look at this fellowship as yet another opportunity to get a certificate, to take nice selfies in classrooms, and to post quotes which we do not intend to live up to, and to just spend another few months or weeks in a learning exercise, but without changing who we are. Dr. Nansozi has emphasized a wonderful point on behavior. What are your, how do you, beyond the knowledge that you're going to get, how do you behave? How do you treat others? Do you actually have empathy for the people that you lead? Do you care about the public good? In the contest between the interests of multinational corporations or capital and the interests of your community, who will you side with at the end of the day? We, Stella and I and others who are organizing this, have repeatedly participated in such processes. But why is it that we end up with the three kinds of leaders I'm going to talk about and then draw to a conclusion? To Dr. Nansozi's point, I'd like to add something else. As a leader emerging out of this process, what is your view of the world? What's your value system insofar as, so if there's a question, for example, should public health be privatized or should it be provided by the state? Whether finance and banking should belong to corporations entirely or to be let to, or be the preserve of public regulators. Where do you stand on those issues? Over and above being well-dressed, saying we young people need to be represented, over and above those platitudes that we like to express in meetings or fellowships like this, what is your worldview? And this cannot come from merely attending sessions like this. You also must make an investment in yourself in terms of knowledge and reading. How much do we read? How much do we know about the world around us, in addition to the certificates we're going to get or whatever other qualifier that we're going to receive by virtue of being a participant in a process like this? So I'd like to throw those challenges to us, because if this is just another cohort, an exercise of training and sessions and so on, without impacting your worldview or belief system or value base as an individual, we will not have attained the kinds of objectives or the kinds of leaders that McKenna was speaking about in her introduction, or those that Vanessa hinted upon in her remarks. So having said that, I'd like to, as introduced in terms of the topic, the teacher's pet, the class menace, and the absentee, what kind of leaders do we value? How is it possible that the loudest, the most populist, the most comical, without necessarily having any substance, how is it that these kinds of people are the ones who we value, whom we re-elect, and those who are concerned about public policy issues, the real questions that will actually impact incomes, that will impact production, that will impact national GDP and things of that sort, production, manufacturing, are not gaining the kinds of attention that they deserve. And how is it that we tolerate the corrupt, we tolerate, again, the populists? Think about your country. I could have shared names here, but these are very well known in your countries, in your constituencies. Those who we know to be essentially, and I say this with all due deference, essentially clowns who are not paying attention to the issues that actually need the attention of leaders or legislators at policy and decision-making levels. So it's an aspiration and an ambition that we are not the teacher's pet, which is those who are in it for, for show, for merely, for the gallery and appearing in celebrity columns and so on. No, that's not the kind of leader that East Africa or our countries, and certainly not the continent, that we're looking for. We run the risk of becoming irrelevant if successive cohorts of a wonderful initiative like this one do not impact the society in a meaningful way. And coming to the third category, we have a syndrome that I'd like you to take note of. And I have referred to it here as the 1, 2, 3, 4 syndrome. The 1, 2, 3, 4 syndrome, if you are taking notes, denotes people whose ambition does not go beyond the following things, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4. You are aspiring for one spouse, for 2 children, a 3-bedroomed house, and a 4-wheel drive vehicle. One spouse, 2 children, a 3-bedroomed house, and a 4-wheel drive. Sadly, this is not something that we only find to be present within the everyday population or the so-called middle class. It is an aspiration that afflicts even those who hold leadership positions, so that someone is unable to think or dream beyond those 4 material possessions or things. And yet leadership requires us to dream far and wide and over and above the immediate things that we see around us. That is only when we have broad dreams and huge ambitions, we will be able to inspire populations and lead them beyond their current state. So again, to reiterate the point on reading, you can only build your knowledge base by reading, by investing in yourself. Some of the pocket money that we use for what the millennial, and I'm part of that generation, and the Gen Z call enjoyment. Some of that money we could use to buy a book a month, for example. If I were to take a poll here and ask how many of you have this year read 3 books, not a tabloid, but something to build your knowledge base so that you can participate in a public discourse discussion. Why should NTV Kenya? Why should Citizen TV Tanzania? Why should a broadcaster in South Sudan, Rwanda, or the DRC invite you to a talk show? Before we young people say we are excluded, what are we offering? What are we bringing in terms of content? Why should President Samia care about my opinion regarding the economy? If in fact my interests are actually in who is winning in which football league and which celebrity has fought with who has broken up with the other, who has taken a selfie of the best legs, who has performed best in a challenge on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and so on. Yet we purport to be leaders of today and not tomorrow, and all these platitudes that sound good, but when investigated, do not amount to much. So mine is to encourage us to rise above the leaders that we despise or we complain about, and not end up like the very people who we think have not led our region or our country well. There should be a tangible distinction between a person who has gone through this fellowship and others who have merely come from wherever and fallen into those so-called accidental leaders. I look forward to engaging with you more and discussing these issues. One of the things that I hope can come out of this is a reading club or a reading culture or a reading group, so that we improve our understanding of the world beyond us. Next time, and I'm just picking a name from the ones that I'm seeing, Jean-Claude or Stella Cheboy or Lillian Magero or whomever is part of a delegation representing Africa in World Trade Organization talks. We have people who are informed. Godfrey Tairo or Johnson Paul Hillary, Chelsea Inyumba, whomever it is. Next time you are a prime minister, chief justice, or, we must have consequential leaders who do not just occupy these positions and go away without any record of their leadership having been felt in the lives of the people that we represent or intend to lead or govern. Thank you so much. So there's a tendency of coups in Africa. There's been a couple in West Africa. I need to find out whether my moderator has not been deposed in a coup. Stella Agara, are you still in charge of this discussion, or have you been deposed?
Stella is having a few technical challenges. Logging back in just a moment. So I'll just play a very quick video as she logs back in. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. Thank you. And yes, thank you to Queer Faith, Whitney, for your very kind comments in the chat. Thank you. And thank you, Fiona, for letting us know that Stella has not been deposed. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika, Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika, for the
shape young men and women. We're the pillars, we're the future. Here we are, let's join together with ability to change communities, with love, with peace, to respond to our need, to call for unity. Africa, hear me cry, never leave me alone. As I see light and a brighter future, let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands for youth and women.
I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Yeah, vijana wa Afrika wote waungana, vijana vijana kutoka mashariki, magharibi, kaskazini na kusini, hata na kati, twaja pamoja ili tufanye nini?
So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Thank you, Fiona, and my apologies to everyone. I was logged out as a result of a power blackout, but we have been able to revert to generator, and I'm good now. I'm sure you have had the insights from Andrew. I wish I had a chance to listen to everything he had to say, but I'm sure your minds have been triggered to start thinking about the type of leader you want to be, whether you are going to choose to be the teacher's pet, whether you're going to choose to be the menace and join into the troubles that we already have, or whether you will choose to continue being an absentee and allow other people to make decisions on your behalf. The person who is going to be helping us go through the conversation on leadership and the training on leadership comes from one of the partner organizations that we've been working with in the steering committee for the EAC Youth Fellowship, the Emerging Leaders Foundation, an organization based in Kenya, but running programs for youth leadership development, quite experienced in trainings on leadership, mentorship of young people, and they are also engaging in training and mentorship for leadership for the public service. They engage in building the capacity of young people to be able to demand accountability from their governments, but also to participate in decision making. They are quite equipped with a lot of experience and knowledge on this task, and they are the selected partner to lead us on the topic on Leadership 101, the introduction to leadership. For the next, it was supposed to be 90 minutes, looks like it's now 81 minutes, and we were already fighting over the 90 minutes. Stella Cheboy, the Programs Officer, Leadership Development and Mentorship at the Emerging Leaders Foundation, is going to be taking us through this session. I suggest that you get comfortable, sit and soak in whatever they have to offer, because this team is quite equipped with a lot that you could benefit from as far as leadership is concerned. And Stella Cheboy happens to also carry a very unique energy. You will notice as soon as she starts speaking that she is made of a different kind of metal. Stella, please, the floor is yours, you together with your team. And I'm also looking